Welcome to another episode of Oratio Podium. Today we are joined by Sam, who is one of the most prominent speakers from Nigeria, as well as debaters and judges, as well as somebody who has tapped a lot of international tournaments with a vast trove of experience. We are very sure that Sam's experiences would be very good informative points for us, and a lot of discussions will occur in this particular discussion that we are having with him. We are very glad for Sam to agree to contribute to our forum, and we are very glad to have him here. Sam, could you just say a bit of things about yourself, what led you into debating, and where you started your journey?
Okay, so hello everyone. It's nice to be here. My name is Sam. That's not my first name, by the way. Sam is my middle name, which I adopted to be my first name in debating because it's easier for people to pronounce, especially when I started international debating. So my name is Ayodele Samuel. If you can manage to keep up with that pronunciation, then it's fine. But yes, I started debating competitively in 2020. I did have some interactions with the debating circuit prior to that, but I thought it was difficult, and I ran away at some point. But yes, I started debating in 2020 at the University of Ilorin, and it's been fun and an amazing experience. Into debating, judging, tabbing. I've done equity once, organizing and convening tournaments. But yes, it's been a very fun experience, and I'm very happy to talk about all of it on this show.
Thank you again for agreeing to come on board. It was very hard for me to also start pronouncing your name, so I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will have some sort of a problem. I got it down at the end, thankfully, so Sam doesn't punish me anymore for it. Let's just quickly discuss a bit about where you started and what got you into debating. So, what was the reason that you started debating in your college?
Yeah, so I think that debating as I became familiar with it initially was, just the we used to say it in this way: shout, make I shout, like people shouting at each other, essentially. And I got introduced to debating. There were folks in my faculty that were into debating, and also folks outside of my faculty that I had met earlier. Around school environments, and they're like, come to the debate club. So I did attend trainings in 2018. I attended the university club training, and I'm used to debating. I debated in the school's freshers oratory contest. It was fun. I beat some of the people who were like at the university debate club at the time. But when I did attend this school training for the first time, I saw people saying stuff that were, you know, different, from what you would ordinarily expect, concepts that were very new that I'd never heard in my life. And they were saying it at this rapid pace. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I belong here. So I'm not going to come back to this. I sneaked out of the training that day. So I never came back. And, in 2019, after close to the end of the school year and the year as well, I had nothing doing. I had already repped my faculty in multiple comps, but I never found myself fitting into the debates, the proper debating community as well. So I was just joining for faculty comps and leave. But I think at the end of our students' work experience program in second year, this was like the end of the year program. I got the idea. Like, I'm not a very social person. It's like I don't go to parties that much or indulge in a lot of social activities. But I remember debating. So I contacted a few of our folks, the final year folks in our faculty, and I asked them to like train some of us. Like, we were about eight of us at the time. And they did. We had our first comp, which was like a first pro armor competition in the school. It's called Expose. And on from there, I started debating and started becoming more used or accustomed to it. Although I used to go to skip trainings, it wasn't like the most important thing. I used to play football a lot then, so like that was the most important sport in my life at the time. But yeah, in 2020, I think 2019, towards the end of the year, I didn't make the school team. I didn't even get the chance to compete for the school team because I was always coming late to training. So I think that this was the biggest motivation for me to take debating seriously. So yes, I started being very consistent in 2020, and being an integral member of the school debating squad. I got selected to attend my first competition. I think 3 months later. Yeah. So that was how I got introduced into debating, and it's been fun from that.
Pretty interesting because you get a lot of like different conversations or points with different people because of debating. So I think the fundamental thing that's important to discuss is also the social element towards debating as well, because debating does give you a lot of like socializing aspects. So your experiences have led you to have connections in your debating world and have motivated you to do a certain amount of things. So how relevant do you find that conversation point, and how do you think that it affects you?
I think that this is a very good question because I would say most of the effects that dating has had on my social life are extraordinary. I don't want to use the negative term per se. So I think firstly that in terms of the religious views that I hold, they become much more complex than the time before. Also because you get to socialize with a lot of people, and you get to also hear from them and their own experiences and the sort of worldviews that shape them. Also because of the materials that you have to be exposed to as well. But more consequently on social life, I think things like attending, debates, how do you say, social events, for example. These are like things I never thought I would be comfortable engaging in. So either attending a break night party, which is oftentimes kind of similar to the parties that you have in like your uni dinner, end of year dinner, etc. These are like very cool events. I never prior to debating had attended a party, and that was like my first experience being in that sort of environment with people who you know uh, had a lot of brains intellectually and also knew how to have a lot of fun as well. So I think that this maybe closely answers your question, but aside from this, I think that's been the extent of my debating slash social experience.
That's interesting because I think one of the few things that I also found from debating is my friendships. I think Sam was one of the few people who I have become closer to through the idea of debating as well. So it's an interesting way how debating has led me to make international friends who I would not have thought to be my friends before, or how to approach them before.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting way in which how debate delocalizes a lot of things for a lot of people and makes it a much more global
Yeah.
activity. But I think the next couple of things that we can discuss here is this: since you've had like such a tremendous amount of experience doing major competitions around in your region, and the place that you're from, and you have very good and vast experiences about the country, and you have certain experiences around Nigeria and the debating space in Nigeria. So let's just start off by talking a bit about how Nigeria is in terms of debating and what your experiences in Nigeria have been.
Oh, okay. I think that there's a like vast difference in between the the nature of debating that I experienced internationally and also what is in within the Nigerian debating community as well. I think there's a vast difference in style. One is that a lot of the speakers here, and the way that they attempt to speak is more conversational in that it involves like telling the story, as opposed to being very analytical and very mechanistic, which I think that is broadly what the trend of debating globally is. So I would say that there is a difference, and that also affects how much of the ideas when Nigerian debaters get to debate globally as well, how they get to express themselves. But beyond that, I think that debating also within Nigeria is a lot difficult in terms of access, because one, it's not something that a lot of people find very valuable. Like that you have a school that is willing to sponsor, or parents who are vastly interested in debating. Like people ask why are you doing this? So there's not a very good culture if you're outside of the debating community that you get as a reaction from others. So I think that this is a lot demotivating personally for a lot of people as well, especially given that they can't access support in their school to attend, maybe competitions internally within Nigeria, or like, maybe interstate competitions as well. So this is a problem. And I think that in some way, in certain communities, it's different because maybe the problem is that you don't have finances to be there, but it's not like people are shaming you in some way for picking debating or deciding to do it. Some people find it more valuable, outside of the country as well. And I think that's also one difference that exists broadly between the debating community here. But finally, is that I think in terms of standards, one is that I do admit that we're a growing circuit. So I think that when I get to debate internationally and also debate locally, there's a difference in terms of standard because one, you try to ensure that you're accommodating as much people as possible who are not very familiar with the trends of BP debating or with the trends of debating globally. So you want to try and make as much accommodations to them as possible, either in terms of the topics or even in terms of the standards of judging as well that you would apply internationally. So I think that this is broadly the differences that exist between debating in Nigeria here and debating maybe internationally.
What was maybe your fondest memory of your debating journey here?
So I think that this was last year. Usually my memories from debating tournaments are overshadowed by the fact that you lose a final. That is the usually the more traumatic experience. But I lost the final. It wasn't as traumatic because we had won all of the preliminary rounds in the comp. So it was a very large, reasonably large comp to an extent. It was about over 20 room comp, and we had 7 rounds. We broke a perfect point, and it was a very very good moment because at that point people were like, "You are the guys who have been terrorizing everyone in the competition." It's like, "Oh, you came from Nigeria and you came down to Ghana and you broke on perfect points. How do people allow you to do that?" So I think that this was a very very fun memory because one, I never expected to have performed like this. I think I joked with my partner on the bus down to Ghana that we'll probably be third in round one, and then we have to deal with being room judges in round two and be fourth. So it was one step at a time. We first in round one, first in round two. Let's keep going. Let's keep trying. But at round seven, we knew that definitely we were going to break on perfect point if we hadn't lost one of the blind rounds. So we're like, don't worry. If we didn't lose round four, we are good. We are going to break perfect points in this tournament. So that was like a very good memory because like I think one is that I do appreciate the Ghanaian debating circuit, even if it's not mine. But also I think that achieving something as special as that in that particular environment was also nice, based on the sort of reception and the way that people appreciated it as well. So it's still a memory that lingers up to this day because sometimes people just pop into my DMs and send me screenshots of tab and like, "You guys really did this?" I'm like, maybe it was just luck.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't just luck. I think you worked pretty hard for them as well. Um, but people do chalk things out to miraculous things whenever they have the ability to do so, because why not? So
I'm not
interestingly, I
one of
think
those.
yeah, probably that it affects us a lot in terms of our way of discussing things too. So let's just probably discuss one other factor, right? Because I think when you were talking about doing majors and other competitions, you would have had this like approach towards these competitions, right? You would have thought that, okay, now it's time for me to take this next step, or maybe I'm going to go into this position right now. So you've done judging quite extensively. So how, let's just start with discussing how you got into judging and then how your experiences were in majors and doing judging in majors and speaking in majors after that.
Yeah, okay. So I think firstly with judging, I never thought, to be honest, I would be judging at comps. Firstly because like I find judging initially I used to find judging very, very boring. Like it's like watching other people do the stuff that you want to do. So I think that it gets a lot it got a lot initially into my head, which is like you're listening to people and then you have ideas that you should be saying. So like, but it was the first time I tried it out. I was best new judge at the comp, so that was a relatively good experience. And on from there, I got linked up by a couple of friends who started introducing me to foreign tournaments that I started judging. I think the first of those was Law and Justice Debate Open. I'm not sure. I don't think I can ever forget. And I was like, I broke at that compound. I was like very, very happy because like they were like very, very cool guys that attended that comp. And I may want to make a special mention to someone. I don't know if they ever remember, but they were like the first cheer that I ever met internationally, and they were very, very nice and helpful to me. I think this is Chester Bell. I'm not sure I do the pronunciation very correctly, but this is like I think she's also from India. They're also from India, so yeah, they're like very very nice to me in that round, and it was very very good reception. I enjoyed judging with them, and I also still have that memory as well because from that round I was like motivated that this is maybe something I wanted to do, and I kept judging, not in like just for the purpose of like I just wanted to be part of that international community. I think at some point I did judge. Maybe you are there. It's several competitions those as well. But I think maybe 3, 4 months down the line, then we got introduced to the idea of paid judging. So like you could judge and earn some money. Obviously, I didn't have a lot of CV at the time, so it wasn't like the top of my list or something. I didn't really think it was feasible for me to do because at that point, a lot of people already had CVs. Like this was like 2021. I think from 2020, a lot of people were already judging online and maybe making money off it as well. So yeah, that's like basically how I got interested into judging. I think that the fact that the prospect of judging people internationally. And when people walk around and hear you speak like this, when they see you in the environment, they're like, "Oh my God, they're talking to white people," and it's like really cool. They're talking to someone from like, where's this person from? Oh, they're from India. They're from uh, Pakistan. They're from the UK. They're from the US. How do you know them? Debating, and it's like very, 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 very nice moment. Also within my roommates, I have to tell them, shut up, you have to relax, I'm judging around. And when they hear the voices, it's like, okay, very cool. Also, I think that the fact that judging did pay was an added incentive as well. And I'm kind of grateful in a way that the debating community did find a sort of good structure around this to compensate judges for their time, because I can assure you it doesn't seem like a very, very rewarding activity on the surface. But finally, as well, I think that it helps you improve as a debater. I think that most people are kind of now familiar with the concept because it helps you understand how people think about assessing argument, and also you are able to interact with a lot of people about how they think, what they think about various styles or various ways of making arguments as well. And additionally, it's a very easy and cheat code to watch debates without actually having to download the video on YouTube as well. So yes, I think that this was like basically how I got interested or into judging. A lot of the stuff along the way was meeting people who were very kind. Either people who are kind and will tell you this is where you need to improve on, or people who are kind enough to let you air your opinions even if they weren't very nice. I think also one of these very nice people I met was one of the Irish folks were very good because I judged with some of them at some point and they were very kind as well. So yes, I think that these were some of the very, very good experiences that I had from judging. Uh, when it comes to prepping for majors, I think that there's the part where I've done this and failed as well, and there's the part where I've done this and succeeded. I think the most important thing for people is to minimize the expectations that they have, and this is important because um, when it comes to majors, I think people, if you have very, very high expectations that you go in there, you're not calculating or accounting for the fact that other people who are coming to this tournament have relatively close expectations, but more importantly, that they have also put in immense amount of work. And this is like prepping for a major is not prepping for a year coming to speak at the comp. It's prepping intensely for years and accumulating that experience, like purposeful prepping for years. It's not like I've been debating for 4 years, so I'm going to attend this comp. It's prepping, knowing fully well that you're going to attend the comp in 2026 and prepping intently 2 3 years to be there. And I think that a lot of people have that attitude, but also a lot of people come in with the wrong kind of expectation. Like I think that my prep for the worlds in Belgrade, the online worlds, was horrible because I sort of interpolated my performance in my circuits to I'm going to crush this, and it was a very humbling experience at that particular point in time. So it was very, very humbling to go there and find out that you missed the breaks by quite a while. We missed the breaks by like 3 points. So maybe we can make all of the calculations that avoiding a fourth in one of those rounds that, and maybe placing a fourth in one of those rounds that we placed a fourth, would have gotten us there. But the 1 point, 2 point difference is accounted for by years of prep that a lot of people put in as well into the comp. There are a lot of variables, there are a lot of other factors that will come in as well. But I think that managing your expectations and managing preparations for that takes long amount of time. Trying to learn, get familiar with other people, how they're thinking, how they're prepping, is very, 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 very important. And I think applying this last year to PAUDC, trying to learn as much as possible in the build up to PAUDC, knowing fully well that that was the camp I was going to speak at around maybe 2 years ago, was like very cool. The result or the outcome wasn't very shiny, but it was very close, reasonably close to what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to win the comp, but getting to the final is maybe relatively closer than not breaking at all. Which is something that you wouldn't get to if the preparation doesn't match it. So the takeaway here is that one is to never interpolate your success on your own local circuit to maybe a major competition like a continental or regional major or worlds, for example. But secondly, as well, is also to account for the fact that other people are trading, like other people are also putting in hours of time to get to be better at it. So if you want to match them, you also have to put in that equal amount of time. And when you go to maybe a group like Debate Series posting on Facebook, you find out that people are trading. So like people aren't sleeping as you think. So I think that this maybe motivates you, but also forces you to manage your expectations reasonably as well. So yeah, that's what I think on this point probably.
Anything particular from your world's journeys that you have as a story which you remember fondly?
Uh, not really, because they were I would say that they were kind of not nice, not particularly nice, to be very honest. So I think that there was like sinusoidal. So like you go up, you come down at some points. Like we took a third in round one. I think we took a first in round two. This was like Belgrade Worlds. I think that the Vietnam one was like not very nice. It was, I think, it was a hybrid one, and people weren't hearing us, and it was kind of difficult. But I think that the more comprehensive one, our counter experience was the very great one. Was like we had a chance to actually compete at that one. But I think that maybe the takeaway memory I would have is maybe checking the speakers tab and realizing that I got an over 80 from a PM speech, and I think it was a very good judge. So like someone that I respected that gave me an over 80 for the PM speech. I was like, yeah, I did very well at this one. So I think that this was when because I was forced to speak as PM. So I think this was where I realized that yeah, you can do very very well. I remember this every time I'm giving a PM speech, because now I think maybe it has become my favorite role in debating, even if it was the one I hated. But I think I was like in a very very encouraging moment from Delaware Worlds. Aside that, there were not a lot of fond memories. I remember cussing out on a particular round because I felt we were cheated that round. To be honest, I still think about it and I'm like, if we weren't cheated in this round, we had the debate winning extension. If we won this round, we probably have won. Although I don't think that's how debating works, because probably you win a round and you go to a much more difficult room. So I don't think it's fair to calculate it that way. But yeah, I think a lot of horrible memories from that world. Maybe the harm of not breaking overshadows a lot of the good stuff that we experienced along the way. But I think that the encouraging moment was getting a good speaker score in the round where I PM'd, which is like the role that I did dread a lot at that time.
You always have like some form of associations with maybe rethinking things that have hashed out for you. So for me, also, I think Belgrade was something which was very traumatizing as well as fulfilling at the same time. If that is something that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense for you. But often or not, there are a lot of other conversation points also, right? Because I think since you have now like a rich tapestry of judging and have so much experience as a speaker and have gone into finals and everything, and you've scored a lot of competitions. So could you tell us a bit about your experiences scoring competitions and doing things in the circuit accordingly?
Yeah, I think that the way I always think about this is to always go with an open mind to learn, because there is always going to be difficulties that you're going to have. There's always going to be mistakes that are going to be made. And I think that I might discuss this a lot more with Tabin, but also with Corin. I just encourage people to always go in with an open mind to learn from others. And I think that helps, because one is that everyone on the team is going to be really someone who thinks that they are worth something. Like, if you get to the point where you're calling a comp, you feel like, yeah, I deserve to be here in a way. And that ego sort of factors into how you treat people that are part of the team in subtle ways that you shouldn't be treating them, or interpret their actions in ways that you shouldn't be interpreting them. Because I think that maybe people are overestimating themselves. I think it's to always treat other people with kindness and understand that people are humans, beyond the fact that you are hardcore members. And this manifests practically in, you know, motions, for example, while having discussions about motions. I think sometimes when someone says, I don't like it doesn't mean I don't like you. And I think that this is sometimes this is important because I think at the comp I did have this discussion and someone was like, "You didn't approve my motions." I was like, "No, that doesn't mean I don't like you." And I just think that we should be safe here. And this also happened to me as well, which is people say I think this idea is too radical. I'm able to understand that this is their opinion about that particular idea. Maybe what I just need to do is to introspect and go back a lot and think about it, and maybe think about toning down, the ideas or stuff that I watch and try to make them suitable for people who would debate there, as opposed to thinking that this person doesn't like me, which is the first inference I'm taking. I think that this helps people a lot because usually when this sort of conversations aren't allowed to happen, then it creates a chilling effect in the team because you don't want to say that someone is wrong because you don't want to make any room for any offense in the team. And I don't think that that's what it should be about. People should be allowed to disagree on certain things, and disagreement doesn't mean that the other person is an angry, um, egotistical person, or it doesn't mean that they hate you, or it doesn't mean that they're trying to be, the only one on the team. They're just trying to be safe. They're trying to ensure that everything goes smoothly. And this is, I think, that the best estimation that best account I would like to give for people to ensure that you don't stop talking to them, because if you create a chilling effect on the team, then it makes it also difficult for the other person as well, because they feel guilty. They feel like they have done something wrong when they shouldn't be feeling that way. And also other members of the team are afraid to make this sort of discussions on the team as well. I've been very grateful to work on certain things that have improved me in Korean. Either because these people also have huge experience that you can learn from. You can reach out to them also and ask questions in future when you have certain difficulties. But also that the Korean experience was meaningful because we became friends on from that point. And so I've also been in a position where I like mentor people. Being on a core team where you're like the most experienced member of the team, and you also have to sort of guide people in a way that means that you try to ensure that they don't feel like you are sidelining them, while also trying to ensure that the expectations of the people on the team are met. So you don't try to maybe please someone on the team at the expense of setting a bad motion, or at the expense of making allocations not very nice, or breaking a judge so as not to offend them. But additionally, as well, I think that seeing a comp in person is vastly different from seeing a comp online. I think that uh, this is this is a huge difference. Maybe because I see a very large comp, but this is stressful. Like, it's intense. One is intense because now people have access to you, like they can see you. If it's online, people like kind of find it hard to sort of send you certain texts or send you certain messages, because like you can't just straight up report them for sending you that particular kind of message. But like people can just approach you easily and softly, and their expression is not going it's not going to make you feel sort of awkward about having sort of awkward about what they're saying. You're not going to feel that sort of reaction that you would feel online if they just send it to you without any context. But I think it's also stressful at that point when a lot of people can see you as well. But beyond that, it's stressful organizing between different teams. Like, you have to work now to see the equity team because someone may not be on their phone. You have to manage the outcome schedule because maybe people want to have socials and go around and have fun as well. So it's a lot more intense. It's intense also because you want to have fun as a member of the CA team. When people finish debating, they're done. When people stop debating, they're done. But when as a member of the CA team, people are done debating, you have to check feedback. You have to think, what's tomorrow's schedule going to be like. It's a lot. It's intense doing this in person, but it's also fun as well. It's fun. I think I enjoyed the last experience, although it was stressful, but it was still fun, and it did accumulate a lot into learning more about how to manage expectations online and in person. But also, I think the more important thing is knowing that you're working with different teams. So not just with members of the CA team, but also with like equity tab. And I think that it's been easier for me knowing fully well how all of the other teams work. So it's kind of easy for me to work with, the tab team, for example, because I have a lot of, having experience. So maybe sometimes someone is being slow, you can just step in and manage things for them before they show up. Um, Obviously with their permission as well. But additionally, if there are issues that you might encounter, for example, maybe at a comp where someone mistakenly deletes the draw for a round, then this might be a problem. If you're a member of the CA team, someone from the CA team deletes the draw for a round, and you're like, we're going to be in trouble with tab team. And at that point, you're like, don't worry, I know how to do this stuff. I'll work with them, and then we can sort it out. So yeah, I think that overall is to understand that people don't have like CA teams or generally teams in general in debating are where egos do clash. Egos do clash because people are worried about their own importance on the team and trying to force others to contribute. But I think it's to treat people with kindness and to also be nice to people as well. Either be nice to people from the top or be nice to people from the bottom. Either of it just makes going on the team very easy. As long as people are doing their job, which is people are showing up to meetings or people are responding to messages, I think that every other interaction from there, like I think that this is the right thing to do, I think that this is the wrong thing to do, should be approached with kindness. And obviously, I think that CA in person, I would like to add, is much more fun, even though much more stressful. But I would prefer that every time.
There's a lot of like conversation points and conversation starters different people face through. The first thing that came off in my mind when I was listening to you talk about these aspects are how things sort of placate or not placate individuals as well, because there's a lot of like contrasting things around online and offline competitions. There are a lot of people who say online competitions are good, it increases access. People are also sometimes very fond of offline competitions because it seems more personal and more intuitive to approach them. So how do you
Yeah.
see this like online offline competition discussion that goes around?
Yeah, I honestly I think I prefer comps offline. But I think the problem with like in-person comps and being easily accessible is that it just increases the scale of complaints that you're getting, and it's kind of harder to manage those complaints. So sometimes people are approaching the wrong person, and you just have to listen to them. Like you have to deal with a lot more of the facial expression that they're giving to you, as opposed to like if someone sends you a text and you're like approach equity, it's kind of easier for you to do. But like when someone approaches you and they're like passionately explaining that complaint, it's kind of harder for you to say, you know what, we'll go meet up with equity or something. But I think that the good point with online stuff is that it's kind of easier for you to manage. It's kind of easier for you to manage things, so you manage to come. You don't really have to wait for someone to wake up and dress up, to be there. Usually with in-person comms, you have to deal with outcomes saying, people have to get dressed, or people maybe might have to attend social, so we may have to skip this round. So I think that there are different benefits that come in, but like I think that the difference here and why I prefer in-person comps is not because it's like better in terms of stress. It's a lot more work and it's more intense. But I think it's just better in terms of connection. Connections that you can have with members of the CA team. Because like it's easier for you to tell someone in person that I don't like this motion, and they would see your expression and understand that this is chill. This is a good conversation. But like online, it maybe it's just as like a text and with a full stop. Maybe you might add all of the love emoticons that you want, but like it's kind of difficult to do that every time. So I think that in person just makes everything easier. Either conversations that you're having amongst yourself makes everyone have some memories of that being on that stage, and like there's more memories that you can have. Maybe taking a picture, but online it's kind of difficult to have that intense of a memory. Like you can be cool online, but it's easier for you to have frictions on the team. It's easier for you to have, how do you say, conflict with members of the team. But it's harder for you to make as much deeper memories as you would if you did that in person. So I think in terms of maximizing debating experience, I think debating online in person is preferable, or CAing rather online or current online is preferable. In person rather is preferable. But when it comes to the intensity of the workload, I think that core in person is just a lot more difficult because you're managing more people. You're managing more people in terms of what they need to do. Like if it's an online comp, you don't really need to care if someone has brushed their teeth and is walking to the venue, and maybe you have to wait for motion release for them. So that's I think maybe the extent of the difference I see when it comes to both.
So there are a couple of interesting aspects towards debating as well, right? Because you've been part of this journey for a long time. In this next segment, let's just discuss a bit about how you would recommend people who are going into this activity to improve or do better. So, what would be Sam's top five or top three pieces of advice they'd give to maybe a speaker or an adjudicator?
Okay. I think firstly for speakers and judges, for speakers more particularly, my first recommendation is to be unique. Like I think debating is like a sport where you have a skill. You have a superhero skill. Like someone is good at something. Um, Kaushik is better at something than Sam is better at. And that your strong point is where maybe you need to build on and ensure that you have mastered it. So like when people see you coming to speak, they know what you can do and they know that it's just going to be very difficult for them to beat you on that. And I think that this comes with developing your own training regimen. The problem with a lot of speakers these days is that you know, try to like they try to ask you where do you get your news sources from. That's fine, but I don't think you should be trying to copy someone. Money may not work for you for obvious reasons that people are different, but I think developing your own training regimen, what you like to read, finding your own interest is more important than trying to learn what someone is interested in. But secondly, as well, is to identify what's more comfortable for you to learn with. Like some people learn visually, some people learn or like with reading a book. Some people learn faster when it's a podcast, when it's an audio thing. Some people learn when it's audio and visuals. Some people don't need the visuals. Um, some people just need to read it in print. Some people read while writing. So I think when it comes to debating, it's also to find what is the most comfortable way for you to digest information. But I think in some way it does function beyond the persuasive game. It also functions as a game of how much do you know. It's a game also of knowledge as well. Because if you maybe find emotional debate topic, it's really kind of hard for you to say that maybe people don't know the general stuff about making arguments regarding competition. Why competition is good or why competition is bad. So I think that being able to learn something new about why competition is good or bad might give you an advantage in a certain debate because probably the judges have heard that argument like 20, 30 times. If probably you have judged like maybe over 100 competitions like myself, I think you probably have maybe encountered that particular argument. So what you want to do is to ensure that you are able to develop yourself to digest as much information as you can. And you have to find out how easy it is for you to digest that information. Thirdly, I think that a lot of people underestimate the power of watching debate videos. And I don't mean, just watching the debate video for like, I just want to hear them speak. But I think is I want to understand what they're saying and what specifically those mechanisms that they're running, where can I apply it? I think that if you watch an art debate and you think that the debates and everything that is said only applies to art, you might make a mistake. This is not just building stock argumentation, but generally emotion about a particular thing and watching a very high quality debate. I think I was talking about this with some students. There was this like debates about mini publics from like HWS last year. So I watched the debates and it was a debate about like mini publics, like people voting for like you have a jury on each social policy. And I think that beyond the fact that that debate was very good with regard to that motion, a lot of the arguments that were made, there are arguments that like, you go on and build on those arguments. You can use them in any debate about politics, and you would come out on top because what I saw there was just beyond the fact that people were trying to win on why mini publics were good or bad, that they were making arguments that broadly respond to things like lobbying, campaigns, how they work, like things that you would meet in other debates that you might find it difficult to respond to. You find those mechanisms or those analysis in those debates. And I think that maybe people need to be more purposeful in terms of how they watch debates or what they are trying to get out of it. It's not trying to understand maybe why X won or maybe see a fancy argument, but trying to see how people think, what reasons they are providing under this particular idea that you're already familiar with. So I do encourage people to watch a lot of good debates and with this sort of mindset that they're not just trying to maybe cover a number. I've watched 5 debate videos this week. That's not the goal, but to really understand what people are saying. Personally, I learn a lot by transcribing as well. I think fourthly is people do develop this attitude where I think a lot for intermediate speakers, where they overestimate and underestimate the people that they are debating within their bracket. Um, this is like you think that you're already there. Maybe you're already there. You don't think that you're better than maybe someone like maybe Tertius, for example. But like you think that you're better in the set, and this means that people find it difficult to learn what other people are doing better than them. Like what is the strength of a speaker? And I think that this helped me a lot because in my the period where I started debating, I wasn't the best in my group. Like we had a group of 4 persons that we used to train and learn how to debate. I'm not the best. I'm probably the worst in the group. But I beat all of them most of the time when we meet at competition. And this is because the attitude I developed is to know that they are better than me, and why are they better than me? And this is like I think debating beyond the persuasive, informative game. It's also a game about understanding your opponent. Like if you understand what your opponent is good at, you know what they spend their 7 minutes doing, and you know how to beat them with what they're doing. Like I think that I knew one of the speakers in the team would always try to find cracks in your case if they are speaking after they're closing you. They're going to find cracks in your case. I knew that this is what they always try to do. And this was like a conversation I had with them unconsciously. I was like, how do you always manage to come up with extensions? Like you don't come up with like very horizontal extensions. You come up with like vertical stuff, and it's very easy for you to do. And all the while I was trying to learn how they did it. So they never do it on me again. Like that was like the purpose of that conversation, and it worked because like the next time we met, I was OG, they were CG, and I was like, okay, and they were second obviously because they know how to do it, but they didn't beat me in that round. I was like, yes, I sort of did it, and able to protect myself from this person, and it's about understanding that your opponent is going to be good at something because people also spend their hours training, but to understand what they are good at and also know that maybe this is something that they spend a lot of their time doing and try to beat them on that as well. So I think it's to appreciate the strength of your opponent. It's very, very important. It's to know that every spar that you're going into is intended to learn something about the opponents that you meet. Maybe this is you might never meet them again, but you might meet them, at the next regionals, and that might be important for you to secure 1 point, 2 points. That might mean that you break, or might determine also your break position as well. Not understanding your opponent will get you in trouble. I think that this was very helpful to me, in the PADC semis. We met a team that we had met in round 9 and in the quarters. But we noticed that they always struggled. Like in the quarters, in round 9, they struggled with, analysis. Like if you had a lot of analysis, they would never be able to rebut you. They were good. They had very strong ideas about their own case. But all you just had to do was to come up with a more compelling case and with so much explanation for that case, and they would never rebut it. So this was like my understanding of them. And in the semis, I spent like 4 or 5 minutes running one case. And yeah, I knew that maybe closing might have a lot of time to come up with responses for it. But this team in OO would never respond to it. And CG also would never be able to come up with better analysis than it. So I think it's about understanding your opponent a lot more and calculating and making, 1 point is very, very important. Like if you're able to save yourself 1 point from knowing how your opponent is thinking, then you would always beat them. But I think that a lot of people approach debating with I'm going to win this round more than I'm going to take information from this round about this person and register it in my head. So I know if I meet them in the next round, this is what I'm expecting from them. And this is also how you should approach watching maybe debates. If you perhaps watch a very good speaker, like um, maybe Ryan or Connie or Tejas, for example, you know what they are good at. Like, what they spend a lot of their time trying to do. Yes, this is what you would expect from them in a round if you ever meet them, and this is also how you should try and approach your speeches when it comes to them. Try to ensure that they are not dunking over you. If you know that they are going to do that, if you know the speaker is going to vertically extend you, then you want to prevent them from doing so to ensure that you don't take an unnecessary second if you can avoid it. So yes, I think that this is the fourth piece of advice. Last one, which I think that I think is very, very important is to always manage your expectation. It's one round at a time. It's one round at a time. I think that if you take a fourth now and you're very disappointed in yourself, it will affect you. It's especially at major tournaments. This is the most important thing. If you're attending a major tournament, it's a marathon. If you're preparing to attend a major tournament, it's also a marathon. I think that when you take a fourth in a spar, when you lose or don't break at a small competition, it shouldn't affect you. It shouldn't reflect on your abilities, that you are not a very good speaker, that you're not improving. I think improvement takes a lot of time, and also people shouldn't calculate. I want to win the comp because I'm going to break from 27 of 27 points. It's difficult to do that. So this means that you take a fourth in round one, that you will still probably break. It's taking a fourth in round one. This doesn't mean that you're going to break, not going to break. It doesn't mean that you're a terrible debater. But when your expectation is that you are going to win all of the rounds, then this is going to affect you because you lose round one and you feel bad for losing round one and you feel like I've been prepping for this comp for 1 year and then I'm losing this round. Why? It might not be you. It might just be that you've just had terrible judges and you should suck it up and move on. But I think that a lot of the time people spiral and people panic. People blame the judges and forget about, I've lost this round, let me move on. I think if you lose a round, if you can't take feedback from the round, like, think about with your partner, why did I lose? Or ask the judges, how can I improve? Then just forget about the round. Because I think thinking about it a lot more is going to affect you in that means that you are going to fail in the next round because you are so much tense about losing that previous round, angry that you're expecting less of the judges, or terrified of your own abilities that you do actually poorly in the next round, which just hurts you a lot more. But also as well that this hurts your partner because like debating is a team sport. So if your morale is down, it's obviously going to affect your partner. It's going to affect how you prep, and I always discourage people from doing this sort of thing. Uh, for judges, I think that the first thing I always try to encourage judges to do is to read the manual of the specific tournaments that you are attending, like that you're judging. Read the actual manual or attend the judge briefing. This is maybe not how you should judge the comp. Like you should obviously judge based on the rules, but this doesn't mean that like you're trying to read the manual so that you judge each round according to what you know from the manual. But this just helps you understand. It makes it easier for you to break because sometimes people don't break at the comp because they think judge briefing isn't important, so they skip it. They don't attend it. They miss out on certain small and important things that were said in the briefing, and that affects them in the comp because someone makes a comment about this in the feedback. And probably maybe the members of the CA team have read this and they're like, we said this, we probably said this in the briefing. So it's an emotional response that people have. And I think that on that, not attending briefing or not maybe watching the briefing video or looking at the briefing slide, it's important for people. It's something that's important that people miss out on. But secondly, as well, is that I think that judging devolves into two things. One is comprehension and being able to track what people are saying very quickly and being able to write them down. I think people should develop what works for you, how easy it is for you to track, and that practice is important. When you are writing down stuff, what is the easiest way for me to write down what I just heard? Uh, and I think maybe not to spiral into writing more than listening, because if you maybe spiral into writing, then I'm not sure how much you can write if you can write as fast as someone is speaking. So I think comprehension is the most important thing, trying to understand what they're saying and try to get it down in a way that's easy for you to remember in the deliberation as well. But I think the third thing is that you don't break at every comp, obviously. And the more important thing is that you try to learn how to improve. I think that I have around like maybe 150, yeah, even more, I don't know, judge breaks. But it took me around 6, 7 months to get 10 because I wasn't breaking at some. And what I try to do as much as possible is when you go to the deliberation, one is that you should know, why you have your call. I think that never be intimidated by who you're judging with. And because, yeah, if you are intimidated, an experienced judge would know whether or not you decide to have the same call as they do, or you decide to say, I made a mistake. I think that someone did this once upon a time at the comp I was judging, and then it was like the chair was like, I know that they did make a mistake, they're lying. So I think that is to go there with an open mind. Like if you have a call, fair enough. Maybe it's not the right call, but know why you have it and be able to explain it but more so be open to listening to what others are saying in the deliberation. This is the most important thing. I think firstly, people don't know how to explain what they've just heard. Like, they spend a lot of time, maybe criticizing one team. The judge says, explain why, the chair says, explain why OG over OO. And then you spend a lot of time saying, something that OG didn't do that CJ did wrong. This is going to get you bad scores in feedback. A lot of people know this, but sometimes also a lot of people spend a lot of time criticizing OO for not doing something, which is not what the judge asked. The judge did not ask you, why is OO a terrible team? OO could be a terrible team and still beat OG, but like, why did OG beat OO? So it's like a comparison between both teams. And the goal here is to explain this in the most succinct way possible. Like, if it's easy for you to say this in a sentence, not go over all of the other everything that's said, because like other people have to speak. So usually as well, your chair would not like to give you good feedback, or even speak to you after the round if they don't think that you're that good. So if you have a bad call, not a very good call, or a call that isn't aligning with the chair, you have reason to explain it. Just go to the most important reason. I thought OG beats OO because opening government did prove this. I thought that this was very important relative to this thing that OO proved, and this is why probably I have OG over OO. It's succinct. Everyone have an idea about why you have your call without so much of detail, and it allows the discussion to move on. And the chair is able to add their own inputs, and you're able to see if you agree or if you don't agree. That is completely fine as well. I think that being as clear as possible in the leaves is underemphasized. Like, focusing on what the judge specific or the chair asks you specifically to compare is important for very new judges. And additionally, as well, entering that deliberation with an open mind, not an open mind that you're like, anything that the chair says, I'm going to agree, but like an open mind that I'm going to listen to what they have to say. If it makes sense, I'll flip. If it doesn't make sense, I'll stick with my call. Uh, some judges will give you good feedback score if you don't flip. I've experienced this as well. I judged with someone who I didn't know, but they gave me good feedback score, even if at the end of the day we didn't have the same call eventually. Um, and some people will also give you a bad feedback score for having a different call than they originally did. So I think that this is something that you shouldn't focus a lot more on than the specific thing that you're doing in that particular round and learning. I think that the final thing is that the fourth thing rather is learn. Like, people give always listen. Like, maybe go online and look for OAs and listen, because sometimes people don't know that the reason why they aren't improving, they aren't breaking at comms, or people find them to be terrible judges. It's not because they have terrible calls, but because they don't know how to explain it. And if you go online, there's like a bunch of helpful resources. You'll find people who are giving like great OAs that you can learn from. Personally, I learned, I watched this OA from, I think that this was round one of Astana EUDC. I think the judge was Jacqueline Kwan. So like, this was like I went to learn from this, like, that OA. It was a very good OA, and it's maybe something that I was the foundation of how I learned how to give OAs as well. So maybe listen to the chair while they're giving OA. Listen to very experienced judges and how they're explaining their call as well. It's very, very important. Not, I think these days a lot of judges just tune off, or tell you after the lips, I'm going to go and take a shower for the next round. You shouldn't be doing this. If the judge is more experienced than you, try to listen as much as possible to what they're saying. And yeah, I think that that's pretty much it. I think I had a final concluding note about this, which was, yeah, uh, I think a lot of these days people treat judging, even judging as much as it is paid, as a less important activity. Like, people take their responsibility less seriously. Either people don't show up early enough to rounds, or people are distracted while judging. Um, I think it's hard to do. Like, it's hard to keep your concentration on people for 56 minutes, but try to improve this. And this is helpful personally, because if you take your eyes off the game for 1 second, you will have a problem. You know, you will have a problem. You probably miss out on something that someone will ask you in feedback and be like, "Why didn't you consider this?" And you begin to struggle, or you try to tell them that it wasn't important, but you don't really know why it isn't important because you didn't really hear them say. So I think it's to take the responsibility of judging as seriously as possible. Um, Whether or not it's paid judging or not paid judging, the rep that people have on judging these days, especially within my own circuit, is that people judge either because they aren't good speakers or because they don't want stress. They just come to a comp to have fun. So that's why they're judging. I don't think, I think judging is as competitive as speaking, if not more. And I think that this is the attitude that people need to come with, either in how they judge people, or the expectations that we have from judges. Showing up early enough rounds, not sleeping off while judging people, not pressing your phone while judging people, not thinking about what to wear for socials, or what to have for lunch. Very, very important, because if you divide your attention span, think about it. I always like to think about it from the perspective of someone who is debating. If you think about it from their perspective, then you're probably going to give them a bad call that they don't deserve. It's hard to do this, but if you can arrive at doing this 97% better than 96% better, then it should be better to do this, because it just makes the game more fair, and also stops us from being replaced by AI judges.
So it's been a very long discussion, and we have discussed so many important points, and we have come
Yeah.
to like a very intuitive understanding of different perceptions and things that Sam really believes in. I think it's very helpful for all of us in terms of viewing and listening this to have like a lot of experiences going into their thought processes and also how they are like engaging with you. Just before we end off, a couple of things before we close. What would your future in debating look like, or what's next for Sam?
Okay, so I would say this with an apology to you, Koshik, as well. But yeah, I think that after PADC 2024, I decided to take a back seat with speaking. Yeah, so I'm a lot more interested in doing the fun stuff, or the less fun stuff, as some people would say, which is judging. I'm open to judging, tabbing, and seeing comms. I do have an interest in attending a WDC or two in the future. So I am actively preparing for those as well. So this means that the in quotes that I stopped speaking is actually stopped. So you can always press the start button again. So I hope to be back very soon. But currently at the moment, I'm a lot more focused on giving back. Either giving back in the form of holding roles like convening comms, or arch coring or tabbing, or more importantly, the career aspect of it, which is coaching. I think is particularly important for me at this point as well. But I do hope that in the future I'm able to return to speaking. I'm not saying that if people meet me in a debate round, that it'll be easy to beat. This is a warning to people in the local circuit. If you find that I still train a lot, so I still probably not be as rusty as a lot of people would expect it to be. But yes, I'm hoping to speak at a WDC in the future. I'm also to make maybe a final run at PhDC as well in the future. So yes, I'm also willing to. I'm also thinking that very, very soon I'll be back for my speaking hiatus, but a lot more in the present, and also in the long term as well. I'm interested in coaching and giving back to the community and others in terms of experience that I currently have.
Sam, that was very interesting, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would have a lot of interest in what you have to say. Thank you so much for joining in today. We are nearing the hour mark, so we're sort of like out of time to discuss a lot more. We'll definitely try to have you again. I'm pretty sure these discussions will continue over time, and as always, I'll keep in touch with you whenever possible. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on board for this event, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will take away a lot of good things from this. Thank you again, and we do hope to have you again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kaushik. It was very nice having this conversation with you. Given that right from 2021, I think that you're very more of the people I met frequently in my judging experience. So I'm very, very happy to have this conversation with you. And yes, I enjoyed my time here. I hope that people will benefit from this conversation. Yes.
Perfect, so much. It's always a pleasure. So thanks again, and hope to see you again soon.